right, there we go. We're good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Smart With Your Money Live. I am Chase Peckham, the Director of Community Outreach and Education at the San Diego Financial Literacy Center, the education arm of DebtWave Credit Counseling. And joining me, as always, is my cohort and new haircut, Felipe Aravallo. And Felipe is who drives this train every other Wednesday. We're going to talk about something that we discussed on our podcast yesterday, which is coming out on Friday, which was really interesting and yet really funny, because I think we all can relate to this. Is we're talking about emergency repairs and lessons we learned from the Surfside, Florida yesterday. Not as big on the Surfside, but what did we learn from that tragedy in Florida in our own homes, and what we ignore and what we don't, and what we want to put off because we don't want to put the money into it. And these are things that, like life, we are faced with these different decisions that we have to make every single day. And there's those things that we just do not want to pay for because you feel like you get nothing from it. Yet, look what can happen if you don't make those decisions soon enough.
Yeah, and it's definitely something, where that was such a big tragedy and could have been avoided, could have not have avoided. They're still investigating. But you've probably heard about it, but it happened on June 24th, and unfortunately 98 people did die. They're still investigating, like I mentioned, but that 12-story, 136-unit oceanfront condo, it had structural damage in the pool deck area, which was overdue for repairs. All this was in multiple stories. This one I happened to get from an ABC News story. So they're still working on it to get all its entireties, but there's repairs that you can put off, and then there's repairs that you really shouldn't put off, and they don't always end tragically when you don't put them off, but sometimes they can end in far more larger expenses if you put them off. So first thing, when it comes to home improvements and repairs, you got to ask yourself, and this is different for everyone, is this a DIY project, or should I just pay a pro? Do I sit down on my little crafting table like the Animal Crossing characters and just do it myself? Or is it something where I just know my own limitations and boundaries, and I just call someone who is better prepared to handle, in my case, most of these home repairs? Again, it varies from person to person. Some people can fix almost anything, but really ask yourself with any home repair, is this a DIY or is this something I need a pro?
Absolutely. And we had fun. We had a great time discussing this yesterday. And it really is. It depends. I mean, if you were to give if you were to look at my house and I was to look at the different things that I needed to fix, that we have to fix in our house, my brother and I standing next to each other, we could do completely different things. He would look at that and go, "Oh, let's go to Home Depot. I'll fix it in an hour." It might take me 4-5 hours. I might take one step forward, 3 steps back. I might end up costing myself more than if I just hired somebody to do it. And we're talking as simple as putting together a toilet. And I'm speaking from experience. Like the whole wax ring, I screwed it all up, flushed the toilet. I was all proud of myself, and then water all over the floor. And now I'm spending another 3 hours. I got to go get a new wax ring. I got to clean up everything. And then I really just, where did it go wrong? So for me, thank goodness I have this handyman right down the street, and he helps me out with a lot of these things, much to my wife's chagrin.
So definitely ask yourself, big thing. If you look around and you inspect the foundations to your property, this is something you could do yourself. Just make sure there's no cracks or water damage. And if you do feel that you may have some foundation issues, this is one that for the vast majority of people, this is a job for a professional, and reach out to someone and have someone come out and look at it. Or you know what, reach out to a couple people and have a couple people come out and look at it, so you can kind of compare and hopefully, get yourself either the best deal or the best advice.
And it's definitely something you need to do and look into, because if it's something like that, it probably is going to be under your homeowner's insurance, but you're going to need somebody to come out there and do it. And these are the things that people that is looked at when they do the inspections before you buy your home. So like these days where a lot of people are like, we're just waiving the inspection because they just want to get into their houses so bad. This could be something that, comes down the line, might bite you. But you're taking, this going in. So you're taking that under consideration when you're going through the purchasing process.
Yeah.
But it is something that you need to take a look at. Why would it be cracking here? And does that mean, could it be a sinkhole? Could it be, there's all kinds of things that can happen.
Part of town that the ground isn't always as
Right.
even, or it shifts over the winter months and the.
You could be building on granite. You could be building on soft land. It could be wetland. There's all kinds of things that can affect the structure of your house. So most definitely having somebody come out and look at that.
Here's another one best left for the pros: electrical or gas repairs. First, if you do think there's a gas leak or anything like that, you need to contact emergency services. You need to get out. You need to be safe. And let them kind of inspect and then carry on from there. If you have electrical issues or gas repairs, or even something like you're going to repair or replace a gas appliance, if you don't know what you're doing, this is also one that you might want to reach out and talk to a professional. You don't want to get hurt and risk your well-being to try and fix something yourself. You don't know what you're doing and you're thinking, is it the green wire or the red wire? You need to not be touching the wires, and you need to call a professional.
Without question. And it's funny because I've gotten really good at replacing the smoke alarms in my house now. But believe it or not, it wasn't always so easy for me. And it was a lot of, again, one step forward, three steps back. And I shocked myself a few times, not knowing what the heck I was doing. So I don't recommend that. Now that's little, but if you're messing with something that's got a lot more juice to it, that can be extremely dangerous. And water heaters, right? As simple as that. If you have an old home and you got an old water heater, and ours was going out too, and I used to take the clicker and try to light the pilot light. If you do that wrong, not only could you hurt yourself, you could do a lot of damage to the house. So it's very important, especially if you have an older system, have somebody come out and take a look at it. Because again, we're going to run into this: penny wise and dollar foolish.
Right. Absolutely. Roof repairs. You got a leak, you're looking up at the ceiling and you see that there's a wet spot, or the tree cutter tells you you're missing a shingle. Could you fix the could you fix the roof yourself?
No.
Potentially.
No chance.
Not for everyone. And you're sitting up on the roof, that's dangerous. You could fall. Another one might be a good thing to leave to a professional. And honestly, if you mess up on your roof, you're going to find out about it more likely when it's raining and you're in the middle of a 3-day raining period. It doesn't happen much here in San Diego.
Doesn't happen much here in San Diego.
But that's when you're going to find out, when water starts coming through your ceiling and you're looking for buckets. And that's really not, you're not going to be able to get a roofer out there in the last minute in the rain. So that might be another one best left for professionals. And with the thing with roofs is, if you haven't gotten your roof replaced or done in decades, you can start saving for it, because eventually it's going to need to happen to replace. It's going to happen, and maybe you have someone come out and look at it, and you got another year, or it's coming up sooner than you think, and you can kind of get an idea and start saving for that.
100%. And it's funny you mentioned that, and I know you mentioned that because it was just last week I was out in my yard, and the guy next door, he was a tree trimmer, and so he's way up in this tree, and he goes, "Hey, is that your house?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, "Yeah, you got a tile missing." Like, oh man.
So Chase, please don't climb up.
And it's not like I'm going to climb up on the roof and check it out, right? I mean, that's like you mentioned, there's a good chance I'm falling off. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, definitely want to avoid that. Now, this is one where some people may feel a little bit more comfortable if you have some like rotting wood on a fence, on a deck, on a something, and it's just one piece. I'd take my chances, find a hammer and some nails and try and fix it. But you really want to try and address that rotting wood problem before it kind of grows and expands and turn into something that's a little less manageable, or something you'll just have to pay more to fix. And wood prices are kind of returning back to coming back down to earth. So
A little bit,
maybe
but
it's
supply is still limited. I mean,
yeah,
it's rough to find. It's a lot more than it used to be.
absolutely. But it could be something where if it's one piece of wood now, you fix it now, you address the problem, and you stop it there, as opposed to letting it become a much larger expense at some point down the road.
Got to do it. And that's, again, that comes into somebody like my brother, or, our coworker, Mike Marsden, or even our IT guy. And they're such great wood makers, and they love to tinker with that stuff, that, if they found their fence was a little bit rotting, or there was a bad piece of wood or a bad section,
the whole fence.
they would just redo the whole section. Where I look at that and I go, oh man, I'm not sure what to do with that. Do I even own a hammer? I think I do. I'm not sure. My buddy Brian and we're both like that a lot. So we end up having to call Charlie and say, "Can you fix this, please?" I'll buy it for you in some, or I'll pay for it in some way.
Right. It's something you just. But
otherwise, I've got to hire somebody to do it.
But that's something you could visually take a look at a fence or something and say, "Ooh, oh, okay, that doesn't look right," and you can kind of check it yourself as you go.
But again, that's one of those things that you got to look at. You could do it. You could replace the wood, but do you know how to match it? Right. Do you know how to make it look like the other piece of wood? Do you know what type of wood that is?
Right.
I don't have that kind of background. So I would have to do a ton of research. And is that worth it to me than to just, and the time-wise, financially, is the financial part of that worth the actual hiring somebody that knows what they're doing and making it look good? And I think that's the difference. And some people are capable of that, and some people are not.
Right. And then you got mold. There's no GIF here because they were all kind of disturbing. So I just left it blank. I'll be honest. Mold, if you have mold in parts of your house, in your bathroom, on your ceiling, and somewhere around your house, that could be a health hazard. You really need to look at addressing that. That could be something you need a pro. That could be something where maybe you just clean it up with some Lysol, depending on, and again, I don't know, I'm not a pro. So, depending on your situation, each one's going to be different, but, best addressed soon, because if there's mold there, there's chances there's just going to be more of it.
That goes for exactly. So that's a very good point that you bring up. If you see, and even if it's not to the point of mold, that you might not even see it by the time you're seeing moisture, water leaks.
Right.
If you see any kind of discoloration in your ceilings, your roof, or the corners, don't put it off thinking, it's nothing, because by the time you actually see it, it could be something huge up in other parts of the house. So, and then the longer it goes, the more the wood rots, the more that it could be a potential flood. There are things that are going on that could be not only dangerous to your health, but could be much more expensive down the line.
Right.
And if you nip it in the bud as quickly as you see it, and that's extraordinarily important. Bottom line is, don't put something off because you're afraid of paying for it, because it's not going away. It's kind of like, it's like, I'm going to pay off my debt, right? Or I'll get to it. Well, it's not getting any smaller.
Right. It's something you want to address as soon as possible. And honestly, it's unfortunate at the moment, but you're probably saving money in the long run.
For 100%. Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's much challenging. All right. Plumbing.
Part of homeownership.
Right. Exactly. Plumbing and water leaks. I found a little stat while I was, researching this. According to the EPA, a leaky faucet that drips at the rate of 1 drip per second can waste up to 3,000 gallons a year. We're in a water shortage down here in Southern California. So, just from that environmental perspective, that's a lot of water. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, again, some of us might venture into trying to fix a sink. Some of us might have to pay someone to come fix a sink. It really depends on your comfort and skill level. Could be an easy repair that could end up saving you money in the long run if you save all that water.
Without question. And again, but the water causes damage, whether it can be very quickly, whether it's, a big flood, or it's something that just happens over time. Water is destructive, and it can decompose different things. It can cause, again, we go back to mold. It can make other parts of the system break down over a period of time. So it's something you don't want to let go.
Yeah. And it's annoying.
And it's extraordinarily annoying.
Especially if you can hear it.
I know nobody's interested, but I had this faucet in my kid's bathroom in their bathtub. And I tried to replace everything because it was dripping. I drip. And I mean, it's taken me 6 months going back and forth, even with our handyman, to get the right system in place to stop it completely. And it's just been a pain in my neck. But home ownership.
Right. Yeah, it's part of the deal. Pests, termites, and from termites to ants. Obviously, there's a varying degree of severity. If you find a couple ants because it rained and some of the ants try to find shelter in your house, that's something you might be able to fix with a little Raid or a little Lysol, or just kind of swipe them away. If you're finding termite damage, that's something left to a professional, have them come out. And again, this could be something where you see a little bit of termite damage, you nip it right away. It could save you a lot of money. Maybe you don't even have to tent your whole house or anything like that. They can just come out, treat that piece, remove that piece, or do what they do. And it could save you a lot of money addressing that problem sooner rather than later. I found out that we don't get a lot of ants, but it rained and we got a few ants that kind of ventured in. There wasn't like a trail or anything. And I found out my wife hates ants, apparently.
Is there anybody that likes ants?
But she just like despises. I don't like them. They bother me, but she like despises ants. And I haven't figured out exactly why. But I cleaned them off and they're gone and they haven't come back. So
that's interesting you say that. We learned the hard way the first time we were renting in a house not too far from where we are now. And we found out that house was actually built on some big ant like homes underneath the house. So we can't, no matter what we did, we would have these people out and they would exterminate. We had to finally go down and they had to dig down and get rid of the entire nest, which I'd never seen anything like that before. And so it was gross, but it was way more expensive. It's just, sometimes it's just bad luck.
Yeah.
I mean, you're building on land. I mean, there's a chance that you're going to build on top of something that wasn't meant to have a house on it.
Yeah. I'll next time I see an ant, I'll have to tell Sarah about this story. Like, we'll just be thankful there's not a nest under it.
It was gross.
Because that sounds gross too.
They were everywhere.
Don't even bother me. But address the termites, ants, the bugs. It again range from you swatting them away or spraying them to termites, which you should probably talk to a professional. Clean your gutters. Again, depending on your house, depending on your situation, might be something you could do regularly yourself. Single story home on flat land. Maybe you just need a step ladder and you get up there and clean it. Maybe you don't even need a step ladder. They have these little attachment things with hose. You can clean it out. Two-story house, uneven land, that kind of stuff. Maybe you have a pro come out there so you don't fall. But this can save, it could help out your roof. It can help out with, water buildup, bugs, mold, all of it.
Rodents,
yeah, lots of different things you can address, such as cleaning out your gutters.
Without question. And those things like having trees too close to your house. We found out that we got a family because a palm tree was too close to our house. We had a family of rats and mice tree mice that were all over our house because they would just run up and down and they'd live in our gutters, and you got to clear that area away. It can be just an annoyance.
Yeah.
And that brings up fire danger too, right? So you got to clear things away from your house. If you're in a neighborhood where you're in a out fire like we area. Have in our surrounding areas, Ramona and those areas, fire danger, you want to build out and clear that space around. So in case there are fires, like we get out here, if you're in a homeowner's area, if you're in a pre-development, chances are that's all done by your HOA and they'll take care of it. But that's things that you don't want to let go.
Right.
Because then it gets twice as expensive.
Right. Replacing your HVAC or vent filters could be easy, could be hard. You might have to climb a step ladder, make sure you get the right size air filters, as Chase was telling me. I suggest you just take them all out, bring them to Home Depot, lay them down on the floor or Lowe's or wherever, and then match them up and make sure you have the same amount for each one of the sizes you need. And then all you have to do is go back home and try and play a little.
You think that would be so simple, right? And
it might look silly.
I used to think I was a pretty smart guy, and then I bought a home, and now I figure I'm not. You would think it would just take out the filter. I bought the same size filter for every single filter in our house. Found out that they're all different sizes. And it doesn't matter how many times I have to go buy filters. I got to take a picture of it to make sure I know what they are.
There you go. Take a picture, make a list, and make sure you buy the corresponding ones. Again, could be something you could do if you're able to climb up on a little step.
You can do it yourself.
Whatever. This could be an easy thing. Makes your air conditioning work better, your heater work better, more efficiently. Costs you less to run it. Those kinds of things. Plus, you get cleaner air.
Absolutely.
Who doesn't like cleaner air? Grouting or caulking, again, this could be very time consuming, but if you have the time and you have a little bit of the, you want to look up how to do it, or maybe you know how to do it, this could save you, and this can prevent water damage. It's a big one. It can prevent
and it looks
mold,
better.
And it looks better. Yeah.
If you do it correctly, but you can buy this stuff at Home Depot and Lowe's and all those different big department stores or big do-it-yourself homeowners places that really make it very simple for you to do nowadays.
Yeah. So that could be something, might be a weekend project.
For most people, just not me.
Clean your dryer vent. For some people, again, this is very easy. I know, like at my parents' house, the dryer vent is about this long. It's basically through the wall and out the other side. The one here, not quite as easy to get to, not quite as easy to clean, but so it'll depend, but clean it out. It could be a fire danger.
Absolutely.
And, you don't want to, you don't want to put that off and then have it become some much larger incident than it needs to be. Energy efficient light bulbs. Again, for most people, most of the light bulbs here, for me, I could change. There's one that seems a little bit higher. I don't know if I want to climb a ladder in the stairwell, but change out your light bulbs, or have some come out and change out your light bulbs. It could save you a lot of money, and it's, if you haven't done it, or they're a little older, that could save you a lot of money as you go. Questions? Any other tips? Any other?
I gotta say, Phil, look around, because there's a lot of this stuff where you could call professionals, as far as the different specialties that you have. But I can tell you that for somebody like myself, who I'm just really not great at this kind of stuff. And I think not only am I not great at it, as I'm really just not interested. And it's like anything else. You got to be honest with yourself and who you are. Now, there are some things that I'll put together, and I will do a lot of home stuff. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of stuff that I've gotten good at, but there are things, if you just know yourself, if you can find like a handyman, like somebody even if it's somebody that just likes to do this kind of stuff and knows what they're doing, and you pay them $30, $40 to fix it, and it doesn't take you away from what you're doing, and it's still efficient financially, that's important to do, I would imagine. Find somebody like that. I got mine, Chris. I love you. I know that he probably giggles and laughs every time I send him a text and say, hey, how would you like to do this? When he thinks, man, you could do that yourself. But it takes him 20 minutes and I pay him $15, $20, and we're done. And I know it's done well.
Right. We have a question here from Facebook. Chase, how much should you set aside for emergency repairs?
Well, that's really a good one. Again, I think it gets back to, there's kind of a rule that if you can try to save anywhere from 3 to 6 month living expenses and have those that there, typically you should put away as much as those things could cost you. So really look at your deductibles, look at the different things that that if you had to replace a roof and you have a deductible on your homeowners, you should really try to put away that money that you have on your deductible. So it depends. But again, it's 3 to 6 months of living expenses of what you make in your household income a month that you can put away. That's a pretty good nest egg to kind of take away from all emergencies, including losing your job, losing, health issues, whatever it might be, but to replace that income and replace any of those things that can break.
Yeah, and it really depends on, what your home values are, you know, what repairs you may need. Obviously, if your house is worth more, like a roof or things like that. And if you live in a homeowners association, do you live in a condo? Do you live in a house? There's a lot of different things. Someone said, how do you build up 3 to 6 months worth of savings?
That's a great question, because that's the most difficult. It sounds simple when I just came out of my mouth, right? And that's a great question. And one of the things that you can do, and this is really smart, is first you have to kind of crunch the numbers. Like, how often, what can I afford? You have to go back to it seems like whatever we do, it gets back to budgeting. And it really is kind of that way, and figure out what your monthly obligations are, where you're spending your excess finances, where you're spending on things that aren't necessarily something that are monthly dues or obligations, and almost pay yourself. So to put away for savings, figure out what you can afford to put away prior to where you pay all your bills and your living expenses. So let's say you can afford, okay, I've crunched all the numbers. I know what we spend. I know what I do on groceries. And this can take, a month or so to really kind of gauge where your money's going by tracking your spending and that kind of thing. And then say, you know what, we've got this much left over. I can pay myself $300 a month. And think of yourself like a bill. Think of yourself like you're paying yourself first. So have that money. You can have your HR department literally take that money and when you get paid, put it into a savings account or some other account where that money can build. And that's a great way to do it without having to physically do it yourself, because human nature says, if there's money left over, you're not necessarily going to go, oh, okay, well, I'll just throw that into savings now and not have anything left. Very rarely do people do that.
Yeah, 3 to 6 months is a very intimidating number. So, but you have to start somewhere. So, like Chase was saying, build that budget, come up with little goals, and know that it's going to take you a while if you don't have a savings to get up to that 3 to 6 months. So don't get discouraged if it's not ready in the next couple months, because that's not possible. You still have to your expenses. So make sure you set little goals and work your way up to it, and eventually get to that 3 to 6 month savings. If I have a credit card debt, is it better to pay off? Oh, question. If I have a credit card debt, is it better to pay off that debt than build my emergency savings?
I would say both. I mean, in the best of worlds, but savings is really important, because otherwise you're going to keep adding to your credit card debt. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, that's a big fundamental difference. You're going to need to, again, go back to the budgeting, and then you're going to figure out that you got to come up with a plan got to pay down that credit card debt, because eventually that's going to become unbearable. And you're never going to be able to build the emergency savings. But at the same time, you've got to start putting away money too. So if you can chip away at both, that's great. But I also would say you've got to get rid of that credit card debt. That's going to be something that's going to, it's just, the obligation's never going to go away.
And it's very expensive, potentially.
Yeah.
Depending on the interest rates.
Right.
It could be a very expensive debt, or maybe it's manageable interest wise. So
it really depends on where you are. But if you're choking on it, it needs to be taken care of. And there are multiple ways that you can figure out to come up with a game plan to pay off that credit card debt. But I would also figure out, again, going back to paying yourself first, even if it's $50, $20, put that money away every month and just start the process.
Yeah. Perfect. Some great questions. So thank you. If there's any other, feel free to drop them in there. If not, we will see you. Oh, again, we have our podcast, Talk Wealth to Me. You can get it wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Friday's episode. This Friday's episode will be on this same topic. We had some fun recording it, and you might realize that we might be good at this financial stuff, but neither of us are very confident with
we are not handy
nails. So, check it out.
Handy Manny, I am not.
No, that is not my forte. As my wife is slowly figuring out. So continue learning. You can catch the episodes anywhere, and then join us in 2 weeks financial considerations before you quit your job, which I actually saw a news report last night that there was like a record number of people who quit their jobs last month. So it's very timely.
Yes.
So join us for that, and we look forward to having you. Thanks for joining us. I know this one went a little longer than the other ones, but hopefully it was some useful information, and hopefully it was entertaining.
Enjoy your Wednesday. Goodbye, everybody.